योगाभ्यास विधिर्योगी चतुर्धा योग साधनम योग सिद्धि स्वयोगस्य पारम्यम षष्ठ उच्यते. This is the summary shloka of chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, from Swami Alavandar's Gitartha Sangraha. Chapter 6 of the Gita consists of 5 key topics. They are the process of practicing the yoga of meditation and mental concentration, yoga bhyasa vidhi. The 4 varieties of successful yogis, yogi chaturdha. The means to be adopted for attaining success in the practice of yoga, yoga sadhanam. The certainty of the achievement of that success sooner or later by all those who earnestly endeavor to attain it, yoga siddhi. Lastly, the superiority of the yoga of divine devotion to all other forms or aspects of yoga, swayogasya paramyam. The fundamental purport of chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, is the inculcation of the cultivation of yoga understood as a technique and achievement of an inward intuitive vision of the nature of the individual soul, Atma Sakshatkara, self-realization. Psychologists have estimated that on an average, we have as many as 60,000 thoughts per day. More importantly, 95 to 98% of these 60,000 thoughts we process are repeated daily. Each of these thoughts at the physical brain level is releasing a shower of chemicals. Neuroscientists estimate that the human brain contains 100 billion neurons. Each neuron has about 1,000 connections. Each connection fires on an average 200 times per second, resulting in 20,000 trillion calculations per second. And all this consumes loads and loads of life energy. Even if we can reduce the number of thoughts by a small percentage, it can have a huge bearing on our life. Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation, enables us to conserve this vital life energy. The word yoga is used several times and in several senses in the text of the Gita. The work as a whole is described by tradition as Yoga Shastra. Each chapter is called a yoga. Jnana, karma and bhakti are all described as forms of yoga. And Sri Krishna himself is glorified as Yogeshwara, the Lord of Yoga. The yoga that is dealt with in this chapter has the specific meaning of Atmavalokana, the vision of the nature of one's own soul as transcending the body and as characterized by knowledge as its attribute. When one does not get attached to the objects of senses and the associated activities, and consequently has abandoned all selfish desires, he is said to be a yoga ruda. Krishna describes the characteristics of the yoga ruda, emphasizing the greatest significance of the control of the mind for the success of yoga. The self is like the still center of a wheel where the 4 spokes are the 4 functions of the mind. Manas, the sensory processing mind. Chitta, the storage bank of all vasanas, the impressions. Ahankara, the ego. And Buddhi, the discriminating intellect. The 4 functions of the mind are like 4 spokes that drive the wheel to operate in the external road of life. The wheel engages the world while the center remains still. All sadhanas techniques are actually means to train the mind and make the mind aware of the soul which lies beyond itself. The mind is the finest instrument that we possess. If it is well disciplined, it can be helpful in our spiritual sadhana. It is through the mind, a fully controlled mind, that we can attain the self which is beyond the mind. Uddharer atmanatmanam atmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha. One should attain the self by the means of the mind and not let the self sink down. For the mind alone is both the friend and the enemy of the self. Krishna in this chapter explains the culminating vision achieved through yoga in 4 stages of ascending order. The first 2 stages belong to the experience of the ecstatic self-vision. In the first stage, the perspective of equality among all selves is achieved. In the second, the further discovery of our likeness to God is made, and guided by that, the yogi perceives God in all and all in God. The third stage draws attention to the condition of one who returns from the summit of Atma Sakshatkara to the normal plane of consciousness. That is, even while being engaged in worldly activities, his mind remains fixed on God. In the fourth stage, the yogi, being perfectly established in the equality of all selves in their transcendent and pure essence, does not enter again into the delusive attachment to his own body and the body-centered associations. After stating the characteristics of the yogis who have perfected the art of yoga, Lord Krishna mentions the difficulty of controlling the mind.